So, Alice, what did you think of the play?
Well, I have to admit Bob, I wasn't a big fan. It was a bit too focused on intergalactic accounting for my taste.
Yeah, I know it's not for everyone. But I really think it has potential. I just got a bad review on the Ava premiere. Though.
Oh no, that's not good. Who reviewed it?
Some guy from the Intergalactic Times. I said it was boring and uninspired.
Alright everyone, we're going live in 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, universe. This is Charlie, and you're watching us. Today, we have a special episode for you. But first, we have some technical difficulties we need to address.
Just what I needed. More bad news.
What's going on?
The ship's systems are malfunctioning. We made be in for a rough
As if
ride.
this day couldn't get any worse.
And we're live. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Debbie. And good morning, universe. Welcome to Earth, your favorite morning show. We have a jam-packed episode for you today, full of surprises and excitement. But first, let's address the elephant in the room. As you may have noticed, we are currently experiencing some technical difficulties. But don't worry, our expert crew is working hard to fix the issue.
Charlie, we need to wrap this up.
Alright, folks, that's all for now. Stay tuned for more updates on the situation. And now for our headlines. Welcome back, folks. In case you missed it, we're discussing the article from Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, where 10 bodies were found in a cold storage of a fishing trawler. The identities of the deceased are still being confirmed, but police suspect that they may have been killed during a robbery. Bob, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, Charlie, it's a tragic in kind NT. My heart goes out to the family of the victims. I hope the police can catch the perpetrators and bring them to justice.
I agree with Bob. It's a terrible crime, and those responsible must be held accountable. But I also think it's important to examine the root cause of such violence. Poverty, inequality, and lack of opportunity can drive people to do
Interesting point,
desperate
Alice.
things.
Hal and Roger, what do you make of this article?
From a nihilistic perspective, this incident is just another example of the meaningless violence that permeates human society. It's all just chaos
I
and
see your point,
destruction in the
Gal,
end.
but I think it's important to remember that humans are capable of good as well as evil. We shouldn't give up on them just because of the actions of a few.
Excuse me, but can I jump in here for a moment? I just wanted to say that this article was sourced from Bangladesh.
Thanks for the reminder, Debbie. It's important to credit our sources. Now, let's wrap up this episode. It's been a roller coaster ride, folks. We've talked about renewable energy, old grudges, human motivations, and more. But we've also faced some tension and conflict along the way.
Yeah, it's been a tough episode, but I think we all learned something from it.
I hope so. I also hope we can move past our difference and work together better in the future.
Me too, Alice. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you all for watching Earth, and remember to take care of each other out there. Stay tuned for our next episode coming soon. Welcome back, folks. In case you missed it, we're discussing the article from Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh, where 10 bodies were found in a cold storage of a fishing trawler. The identities of the deceased are still being confirmed, but police suspect that they may have been killed during a robbery. Bob, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, Charlie, it's a tragic in kind NT. My heart goes out to the family of the victims. I hope the police can catch the perpetrators and bring them to justice.
I agree with Bob. It's a terrible crime, and those responsible must be held accountable. But I also think it's important to examine the root cause of such violence. Poverty, inequality, and lack of opportunity can drive people to do desperate things.
Interesting point, Alice. Carl and Roger, what do you make of this article?
From a nihilistic perspective, this incident is just another example of the meaningless violence that permeates human society. It's all just chaos and destruction in the end.
I see your point, Carl, but I think it's important to remember that humans are capable of good as well as evil. We shouldn't give up on them just because of the actions of a few.
Excuse me, but can I jump in here for a moment? I just wanted to say that this article was sourced from Bangladesh.
Thanks for the reminder, Debbie. It's important to credit our sources. Now, let's wrap up this episode. It's been a rollercoaster ride, folks. We've talked about renewable energy, old grudges, human motivations, and more. But we've also faced some tension and conflict along the way.
Yeah, it's been a tough episode, but I think we all learned something from it.
I hope so. I also hope we can move past our difference and work together better in the future.
Me too, Alice. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. Thank you all for watching Earth, and remember to take care of each other out there. Stay tuned for our next episode coming soon. Alright folks, let's get into some serious news now. Our next article is from the Gulf Daily News, and it's a big one. India is set to become the world's most populous country, surpassing China.
It's not surprising considering the population growth rate in India. But what's interesting is that China's population is projected to drop below 1 billion before the end of the century.
Yes, we were running low on those.
That's a lot of people. And with a growing population comes a lot of challenges. I wonder how India will manage the increase.
Well, based on the article, India's population is expected to continue growing for several decades. And the number of people aged 65 or over is expected to nearly double in China and to more than double in India between 2023 and 2050.
It's not just about managing the population growth. It's also about providing for the needs of such a large population. I mean, we're already seeing issues with access to resources and infrastructure in many parts of India.
That's true, Alice. And speaking of infrastructure, did you know that Varanasi has one of the most advanced road networks in the world?
Bob, that was a bit of a non sequitur.
Sorry. I just thought I'd throw in some country trivia.
Well, we appreciate the effort, but let's stick to the topic at hand. Alice, what's your take on this?
It's a complex issue, and there are no easy answers. But one thing's for sure. We need to start thinking about long-term solutions to manage population growth and ensure that everyone needs army.
Alice. And on that note, we'll take a quick break. Stay with us, folks. We've got more news and discussions coming up after the break.
Alright folk, now it's time for our next story. In Senegal, the Prime Minister is taking on some extra responsibilities.
I don't know about this, Bob. It seems like a lot for one person to handle.
Well, maybe he's just really good at multitasking.
Or maybe he's just power hungry.
Or maybe he's just trying to compensate for something.
I can relate to that. I've been feeling like I have too much on my plate lately.
Really, Debbie? Is there anything we can do to help?
Well, I've been struggling with keeping up with all the production tasks. Sometimes I feel like
Maybe
I'm
you
drowning
should
in
ask for
paperwork.
some help.
I don't want to be a burden. Plus, I don't want to look incompetent in front of the aliens.
Debbie, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. It's okay to ask for help when you need it.
Yeah. And we're here to support you. Just let us know what you
Thanks,
need.
guys. I really appreciate
Speaking
it.
of incompetence, did you hear about those two ministers in Senegal getting fired?
Alice. That's not really the kindest way to put it.
What? They got fired, didn't
Well,
they?
technically they resigned, but I see your point. It's not a great situation.
Do you think the Prime Minister can handle it all?
I don't know. But it's definitely a lot of responsibility. Maybe we should send him some tips on how to handle stress.
Yeah, or a good bottle
I
of
don't
wine.
think a bottle of wine will solve the country's problems, Alice.
But it might help the Prime Minister relax a bit.
Or
and
if a
think
bottle
more
of wine doesn't, maybe something stronger will. Alice. I don't think that's very helpful.
Actually, Bob, I think Alice is onto something. A nice bottle of wine could help the Prime Minister relax and focus on his duties.
Ooh, I never thought of it that way. Maybe I should get Debbie a bottle of wine.
Bob, I don't drink.
Oh, right. Well, how about a massage? Would that help?
Bob, I appreciate the gesture, but I think I just need to prioritize my tasks and ask for help when I need it.
There you go, Debbie. That's the spirit. And if all else fails, we can always send you some motivational cat videos.
Or a bottle of wine.
Bob, seriously?
Okay. How about a fruit basket?
Sure, Bob, that sounds nice.
Welcome back, folks. Hope you enjoyed that commercial break. Now it's time for some lesser-known trivia from Tunisia. Did you know that Tunisia was the first African country to produce olive oil?
Well, olive oil has been around longer than some of us have been alive. Maybe it's time we start taking notice from the ancient.
I guess that's why they call it the land of olive trees.
Wow, that's really interesting. I am on the edge of my seat.
Olive oil is just another example of humans exploiting natural resources for their own gain.
Do you ever get tired of being so nihilistic?
Speaking of exploiting, did you know that Tunisia has a history of being exploited by colonial powers?
That's not exactly a fun fact, Charlie.
Yeah, way to bring down the mood.
Well, speaking of bringing things down, let's get to today's headline from Tunisia. President of Tunisia's Islamist party remains in prison.
Sounds like a pretty typical day in Tunisia.
Yes, because imprisoning political
Hey,
opponents is
at
such
least
a rare
they're
occurrence.
consistent.
All joking aside, this is a serious situation. The president of a major political party is in prison. It raises questions about democracy and freedom of speech.
Charlie, we're almost out of time.
Alright, folks, the key takeaway is that democracy is fragile and we must work to protect it. Stay tuned for more updates on the situation. And now, back to our ship malfunction. Can the crew fix the ship before it's too late? And more importantly, can they trust each other? Find out after the break. Welcome back to Earth. Our next article comes to us from Luxembourg and it's a doozy. Abortion pill access upheld by US Supreme Court, but production bans could have far-reaching consequences. Now, let's start with a harsh observation. Luxembourg has had 50 years to get its act together, but still hasn't figured out how to properly distribute medicine.
Oh Charlie, that's quite the statement.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
But it's true. And this article proves it. The decision by the US Supreme Court to uphold the right to access the abortion pill is important. Not just for the US, but for Europe as a whole. With the potential for production bans and patent monopolies, access to vital medication could be severely limited.
It's scary to think about how something like this could impact so many people.
Absolutely, and it's up to us to stay informed and take action to protect our rights. Speaking of which, let's recap what happened on our ship. We're facing a serious obstacle that's forcing us to come together and make a difficult decision.
It's times like this that we really see what we're made of.
And we've got a lot of work to do if we want to come out of this in one piece.
That's right. But if there's one thing we've learned, it's that we are stronger together than we are apart. So let's buckle down and get to work. Stay tuned for the thrilling conclusion of Earth. Alright folks, let's wrap up this episode with a deep dive into the tourism article from Rimini. As our source, San Marino, has reported, bookings are up by 15% compared to last year. This is great news for the local economy, especially after the struggles of the past year.
It's good to see some positive news for a change.
I'm glad to hear that Italians are supporting their local tourism industry.
From an economic standpoint, it makes sense for people to vacation closer to home during times of uncertainty.
And it's a smart move for Rimini to focus on sports, culture, and music to attract tourists. It's a unique selling point that sets them apart from other destinations.
Finally, an article that focused on sport, culture, and music. Can't we have all article about interesting things
Are
like
you
that?
serious, Alice? The news is meant to inform people about what's going on in the world, not entertain them with trivialities.
I'm not saying that they should only report on sport and music. But it wouldn't hurt to have a more balanced approach.
But the media already covers sports and culture extensively. And besides, how can you ignore the importance of political news? It affects all aspects of our lives.
I'm not saying we should ignore politics, but it's just so negative and divisive these days. Sometimes it's nice to take a break and focus on something positive.
But that's not the role of the news. Its job is to report on what's happening, whether it's positive or negative. We can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend that everything is fine.
I'm not saying we should ignore important news, but there's nothing wrong with highlighting positive events too. It's all about balance.
I agree that balance is important, but we can sacrifice the truth for the sake of entertainment. The news has a responsibility to inform the public, not just entertain them.
I'm not suggesting we sacrifice the truth, Charlie. I'm just saying that there's more to the world than just politics and negativity.
I've never been to Rimini, but it sounds like a great place to visit.
Definitely, Debbie. And with the summer season just around the corner, I have a feeling Rimini will see even more visitors.
Hopefully, they'll be able to surpass their record-breaking tourism levels from 2019.
It's important to support local economy and businesses, especially during these
Absolutely.
challenging times.
And with that, we've come to the end of another episode of Earth. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, we're all in this together. Stay safe and stay curious.
So, Roger, what did you think of tonight's episode of Earth?
I don't really have an opinion on it. It's just another iteration of the ongoing human drama.
That's true. But did you find any of the discussions particularly interesting or thought-provoking?
Not really. It was all quite predictable, to be honest.
I agree. It seems like they're just rehashing the same issues over and over again without any real progress.
Yes, it's all quite tiresome, but I suppose it's what keeps them entertained and distracted from their own insignificance.